It's Monday the 20th of January in the Vendée Globe, the skipper's 71st day at sea. And today we start off with updates from Sam Goodchild and Nico Lunven, who both talked with Andy Robertson yesterday. And their main concerns are this deep depression in the North Atlantic, which is currently centred around the Azores, and how they're going to approach that on their final approach into the finish line at Les Sables. I then talked yesterday at Düsseldorf with Frédéric Bouvier from Composites, who are based in Les Sables, and he talks about how when he sailed with Seb Simon, who's finished in third place and is the first hometown sailor to finish on the podium in the Vendée Globe. We then take a look at the tracker, the leaderboard, and conclude with an update from Conrad Colman.
Hi Andy, hi Mike, nice to hear your voices. We're just trying to get into wind now. Got 20-25 knots, and it's only going to build from here.
And how are you feeling? How's your preparations gone?
Yeah, I'm okay. A bit tired. I had a big day yesterday, getting stuff sorted, and then overnight the wind built from 5 knots to 25 knots. So I've gone through the sail wardrobe a little bit and stacked aft and getting everything sorted for the storm. So yeah, it's been a big 24 hours. On the forecast, we got 45 knots on the weather file and gusts at over 50, so it's fairly short-lived, but it's going to be fairly wild, I think. And there's some fairly big sea state as well, so there's 7-metre waves on the weather file. So yeah, we looked at options to get around it, but if you go further south, you maybe have a little less wind and a little less sea state, but you end up coming back upwind to get out of it in 30-35 knots. So it's kind of in a rock and a hard place, we've decided to go this way and be careful, basically.
Hey, good morning, Nico. How are you?
Hello, Andy. Very good on you?
Yeah, not too bad. How are things on board today? How's the weather in this dorsal, your high-pressure ridge?
Yes. So I just crossed the high-pressure ridge last night. So I dive end of the night, and I get out of the ridge, which is a good point, and I'm able to head to roughly to northeast, with the wind slowly building. A good point. And then the next days are going to be quite tough with this very big low pressure to deal with. As I explained to Perrine, what is very difficult is there is not really alternative to work on, because at one stage I was expecting to go a bit more east to avoid the strong wind on the bad sea state, but if you do that, then you will have to sail fully upwind in very strong conditions after that. So it's not a good idea, I think. And if you slow down too much, then there is another low pressure system coming for the end of the week. So it's also not a good solution to slow down too much. So very complicated situation for us, for me as well, but I guess for the other competitors.
So how do you feel about that? What's your strategy going to be? What's your priorities?
My strategy, so the priority, of course, is the safety. And my strategy is really to take care of myself, of the boat, to be careful. And if at one stage I feel not comfortable sailing in this condition, I will slow down, and then I will see how to deal with the next low pressure.
So I'd imagine you've been maximising your rest and your preparation in the lighter conditions as much as possible?
Yes, but the problem that the light wind was also a bit unstable, so It was also important to be on deck to trim the sail. So it was not so easy to rest the last days. I hope today I will be able to rest a bit.
How do you feel in terms of fatigue?
I feel quite okay. So I'm not so worried, but then you start to be a bit too tired, and then you start to do some mistakes. So I don't want to be in this situation.
And but this is the North Atlantic at the end of the Vendée Globe. It's tough.
This is probably, to be honest, this is probably the toughest condition for myself since the beginning of the race.
Indeed. Anyway, Nico, I wish you all the best with it, and be safe, and we'll see you in Les Sables in a few days, I hope. All the best.
Thank you very much, Andy. Have a good day.
You too, bye.
Bye-bye.
So I'm here on the J Composites stand with Frédéric Bouvier, who has been a racer through and through. And one of the great things about J Composites is they are in Les Sables d'Olonne, the home of the Vendée Globe. Now, how does it feel in your hometown when the Vendée Globe is on?
It feels a lot of energy for sailors. It's great because it's an opportunity to meet people from almost all around the planet that we're crossing on other races. It's also very crowded. I mean, especially this year was crazy at the village. 40,000 people a day, completely crazy, but that's a good reward for all the sailing scene.
For the first time, we've got a sailor from Les Sables d'Olonne who has finished on the podium in the Vendée Globe. And Seb Simon, you've known him for over a decade now. How did you first meet him?
Well, it's a funny story. He is from Les Sables d'Olonne, and we was there for already almost another decade. But we met by accident. I was looking for someone to crew with us on the J70 for the first Euro Cup on Lake Garda. Called a friend, was already Figaro sailor, and he said, well, there is a young guy from Les Sables. He's doing his selection for his first Figaro year, and it will be a good training for him to be our bowman. So he joined us. We drive with the 70 on the trailer behind the car to Lake Garda, did the Euro Cup, finished on the podium, and then that's how I met him. So, and now seeing where he is, it's so nice. Unfortunately, I was there getting the stand ready, so I couldn't be with him looking at him on the channel, but very proud for him, and it's a nice story.
Back in Lake Garda when you were sailing with him, did you realise and could you see that he was a real talent?
Yeah, I mean, my friend told me, and I have some other information, and you can feel that the talent was there. So it's absolutely not a surprise for me to see him where he is. I mean, he won the Figaro as well, and his curve has been super great. He had faced some difficulty from his previous Vendée Globe with having to stop due to a broken foil, if I'm right. So again, now he's finishing with a foil broken, but on the podium. So what an achievement. It's just, super nice.
Looking on the tracker here, we can see the positions from 4th to 13th place. And Jeremie Beyou has overtaken Sam Goodchild, but Sam Goodchild's positioned slightly to the west. Now we can see that swirling low pressure system, which is centred almost around the Azores exclusion zone. That area in grey is where they're not allowed to enter. It's an area of bioprotection. And so if we zoom in on that, we can see those purples. Those purples, the breezes are up to 45 knots. And that is what is approaching those two leaders. We can see just Sam Goodchild to the left, Jeremie Beyou just to the east, to the right. Also of concern is the wave heights. And if we take a look at those, we can see the lighter the colour, the bigger the waves. And what we're looking at there, just to the west of the Azores, is up to 9 metre waves, combined with 45 to 50 knot breezes. That is going to be dangerous. So they are setting themselves up for safety first at the front. They will be reducing the amount of sail that they have up and trying to take an approach where, when you have travelled over 20,000 nautical miles, there are various areas of wear on the boat. They just want to get through this, because the last thing you want after 70 days at sea is then for your race to come to an end in that final stretch to the finish line. Behind them we can see the pair of Paul Milhat and Nico Lunven who are lining up. We've got Nico Lunven, who is just to the west of Paul Milhat, so we'll get that stronger wind slightly earlier. And then Justine Metreau is behind them in 8th place, and Thomas Rouillon on their tail. After that we've got a little bit of a gap down to Benjamin Dutroux In 10th place, we can see him lining up. They're in the light winds at the moment, and he's just lining up for when he gets the influence of that low pressure system, with Clarice Kramer right on his tail. And then Sam Davis, who is still crossing that transition zone between the trades and the influence in the low pressure system at the moment. And Boris Herrmann lining up to the west quite a bit. Is this to get out of that light wind and then to tack across into the pressure? Probably. And once he's using his starboard foil, he should be back up to speed a little bit more, because that port foil is continuing to hamper him. In 14th place, Roman Atanasio has moved back into the Northern Hemisphere. He's crossed the equator. And also we can see here Isabelle Joschke has moved ahead of Damien Seguin in the battle for 15th place. And we can see there Benjamin Ferret in 17th place. Moving a little bit further back, we've got Giancarlo Pedote is now just under 200 nautical miles ahead of Conrad Colman, who we can see and we will hear from in a little bit. And then we've got the pair of Alan Rura and Jean Le Cam in 21st and 22nd place. And then if we move just a little bit further back, we can see then the group who are just coming up that South American coast. We can see they're led by Kajiro Shiraishi in 24th place. Others of note here, Violet d'Orange in 28th place. And going back now to just to the north of the ice exclusion zone, we have got Oliver here in 29th place. The final three are on their approach to Cape Horn. Once rounded there, we will have the entire fleet in the Atlantic Ocean. We can see Manuel Cousin is going to be the next to round, and at the tail is Dennis van Weenberg. The leaderboard at 0200 hours UTC shows us that Jeremie Beyou is currently in 4th place, so leading on the water, and is averaging 17 knots over the last 24 hours. Those speeds will probably hold around that with this low pressure system. They're not wanting to push the boats too hard, but at those speeds they should be finishing this week, that entire group between 4th and maybe even 13th place, hopefully this week. Now we can see Nico Lunven considerably faster than Justine Metreau in 8th place. This is as he came into the breeze first, and we can see how those numbers drop away as that light wind, that transition zone before the deep depression. And we can see a little bit further down, Roman Atanasio in 14th place, his average speed just 5.71 knots. And that is down to him being in the doldrums as he's crossed the equator.
Isn't that beautiful? Oh. I just woke up from a nap and saw this beautiful sunrise, and the sea is flat. The wind is 14 knots. Just slide along here. It's beautiful. Just look at those colors. It's so beautiful. Wow. However, the wind has dropped slightly. And so it's time to go from J2 to J0, and I invite you to accompany me on this change. First up is we need to change the ratio of tension between the lower backstay and the upper backstay. To do that, I need to put more tension into the mainsail. That'll hold the mast up while I take off the backstay. So the adjustment is done here. Okay, so that puts the tension on the top mast backstay. Okay, ease the main bit. And then now we need to get the code 0, which is up there and furled, out. So the J2 stays in place. We'll ease that off in anticipation of the new 0. Okay. So the 0 sheet comes here onto the primary winch, onto the pit winch. He goes there. That means that I can keep the 2 in place while I unfurl the new sail. Right, so now we have the 0 on the outside of the 2, and we need to furl up the 2. So we do that. The tension goes on the power clutch, ease off here. Furling line, the J2 is here. And then I can just ease off, ease the 2 into the 0 like that, goes all floppy. Okay. So sail furled, now I can transfer the sheet. Open the clutch. And there we go. The 0 is out. Needs a little bit more trim. So there you have it. That's called an inline peel because I went from one sail to the other without stopping or slowing or turning the boat. So it's a pretty efficient way of changing sails, which is good because you know how in my last video I said that this sailing was going to be doigt dans le nez, fingers in the nose. Thank you, by the way, for your etymology lessons. It has not been fingers in the nose. Really shifty, squally sometimes conditions, lots of change in between the 0 and the 2, and so it's good. I've got this maneuver down because I've been doing it a lot. I think I've done it 10 times since sundown yesterday. A cloud comes along, brings more wind, go from the 0 to the 2, cloud goes away, wind dies off, back from the 2 to the 0, and so it's just constantly in and out, in and out, in and out. And it's certainly going to be like that for the next 600 miles or so until we get to the equator and go into the doldrums. And then once we get out of the doldrums, it's just going to be J2 all the way up until we get basically to the Azores. So that's going to be a... Maybe I'm going to tempt fate and say that that's going to be the period of fingers in the nose. Let's see.
Thank you very much for watching today. Please do subscribe to our channel using the button down here, and take a look at sailworld.com and yachtsandyachting.com for all the latest news in the world of sailing.